challenge. Don't you dare, ref. That she got the ball. Good evening, Tottenham fans all across the world, and happy Friday evening to you all, and hopefully you got off to a great start to this weekend. But excitement is in the air as Tottenham are set to kick off their first home game of the new Premier League campaign as they welcome Everton down to N17 as we look to chew them up and spit them out just like Brighton did last weekend. And after dropping 2 points against Leicester, which I have now dubbed Profligate, 70% possession, 15 shots. We have to be a lot more clinical heading into this game, especially since the knives are out for Ange Postecoglou amongst some sections of the fan base already. And with big games, Newcastle away, which we haven't fared well up there the last 2 years, and also the North London Derby coming up, which we were 3-0 down in 38 minutes towards the end of last season, and off the back end of some of the results last season. Postecoglou is under serious pressure, so I do hope that these players can step up and deliver all 3 points. Ange Postecoglou also has some big decisions heading into this game to make. Who comes in and replaces injured Rodrigo Bentancur in that number 6 role? Also, who starts at right wing? Does he replace his fate back in Brennan Johnson after not really producing the goods against Leicester? Or does he bring in new signing Wilson, Odobert, or even Kulusevski onto that side? And lastly, the news today, which no Spurs fan wanted to hear, and we wish Dominic Solanke a speedy recovery, but Dominic Solanke picked up an ankle injury and will be missing for the next couple of games. So who comes in and leads the line? Like I said, big decisions for Postecoglou to make, because last week against Leicester, the problem was that we couldn't take our chances. Now he has to tinker with that forward line, probably make another 2 changes to it this week to see if he can address that issue. So a lot riding on this starting 11. So guys, let's get into it. The starting 11 that I think Postecoglou will pick in order to bring home all 3 points. Starting with the man between the sticks, Guglielmo Vicario pulled off a couple of great one-on-one saves last weekend, notably the one after Jamie Vardy did score his head. Fortunately, Vicario couldn't get to that, but he did make a really important one-on-one save just straight after that, and at least earned us a point and saved us even further embarrassment. But we know Vicario one-on-one, he's absolutely excellent. Over these next couple of games, especially Everton, he is going to be tested aerially. What's he like under the high ball? And it is a game against Everton last season where they really exposed them, and it's a blueprint that other clubs used heading into these games. So this will be a huge test over the next few weeks for Vicario to see if he has made improvements in that area of his game, and hopefully a clean sheet as well to give him a bit of confidence heading up to that Newcastle away. Moving on to left back, Destiny Udogie will retain his place here. Of course, put in a really hard-working performance last week against Leicester, which was good to see considering he had little to no pre-season in the build-up to this. However, in the second half, he found it a bit more difficult to be able to contain Leicester winger Fatawa, who ended up putting in that cross for that equaliser. One area of the game I would like to see Destiny Udogie improve in is to get out to them crosses with more aggression and stop them from coming in, because we are so vulnerable with any ball that comes into the box, and hopefully this will be at the forefront of Destiny Udogie's mind in future to do more about stopping them crosses coming in from that side. And it is an area of weakness that I do expect Everton to exploit, given that you've got Dwight McNeil one side and you've also got Jack Harrison the other side, and Sean Dyche will instruct them to put the balls in the box all game long. So he has to get out there with more intensity than what he did Monday night and look to close down them crosses. Now moving on to the man of the hour, and that is the postman who I told you delivers UK-wide. Pedro Porro had a really good display against Leicester City the other night for the most part, putting a couple of great crosses and also making a great run in front of Dominic Solanke to get on the end of Maddison's ball on the stroke of the half-hour mark. Also, no Premier League player over the course of the opening weekend created more chances from open play than Pedro Porro, who created 4. However, defensively, for the goal, he does have to take a bit of the burden of blame. The entire responsibility isn't on him. However, sometimes I find Pedro Porro lapses a little bit in concentration, and that is one area where he needs to improve. And if he was maybe concentrating harder, maybe he could have done more to stop that goal from happening. Also, question marks around how fit he is. Is he going to last the full 90 minutes? And do we take the risk with really big games coming up after this? For me, I would think Pedro Porro will probably play about 60 minutes, and hopefully we can get the job done before then, be able to take him off and bring on Jed Spence for the remainder of the game. So I would say, Jed Spence, be ready. There's probably going to be an opportunity here for you. Moving on to right side, the centre-back, and Romero will keep his place despite a really poor second half against Leicester the other evening. In reality, Romero actually had very little to do for 57 minutes. However, he decided to wander off Vardy without even communicating to Pedro Porro, and that is a goal that really could have been avoided through simple communication. All he had to do was turn around to Pedro Porro and say, Pedro, tuck in, I need your help. You take him, I'm going off to help over here. And he simply did not do that. And where my frustration comes in is Ange has appointed Christian Romero as the leader of that back line. And he is responsible for Udogie, for Van de Ven, for Pedro Porro, and what we really miss across this backline. And if we solve this issue, we really could improve on the amount of goals that we do concede. Is someone, a good old-fashioned leader, a good old-fashioned communicator, that's almost going to demand and pull people and put them in positions and help navigate them where he wants them to be throughout the game, to try and keep that compact, to try and keep it tight, and try and keep clean sheets. And Romero is failing in this duty right now. And this is an area where I really want to see him step up. When we go into hard moments in games, we really lack in leadership. And that's where we should be looking at the likes of Romero. I'm going to get on to Maddison and Son to really step up, especially considering we've got such a young team, to take the reins and bring that calmness back around. But Romero almost just falls into the cycle as well, just like James Maddison, just like Sonny, where they almost wilt when the pressure gets tough. And I would like to see Romero stand up a hell of a lot more in terms of being a leader across that back line and communicating a lot more, because I think it would solve a lot of our issues across that back line. Moving on to left-sided centre-back, and the man that makes Romero more aggressive and Romero makes him more calm, it is the one and only Mickey Van de Ven, who I actually thought had a very solid performance the other night, didn't really put a foot wrong, was the more assured of the two centre-backs, and used the ball really well. If you go back and look at the game, he used that ball down the left-hand side to great effect very quickly to get the ball down to Son, to get him isolated one-on-one with the winger. And I cannot say that Romero done that on the right-hand side. Anytime he had the opportunity to play Brennan Johnson, he refused. But Mickey Van de Ven, still one area of the game which I really want to see him improve in, which I think is going to be put to the test against Everton, Newcastle and Arsenal, is him in the air. I think if he can add that to his game, he will become an absolute world-class centre-back, and one that will be in high demand, one that has all the attributes, one that has the pace that he does, one that can dribble the way he does, one that can pass the way he does. If he can become really good and more consistent in the air and make them improvements to his game, he will become an absolute colossus and become the world's best defender. I'd also argue, I think he's got a higher ceiling than Christian Romero. So if he can add that to his game, we've got one hell of a player on our hands. Moving into the number 6 role, of course, Bentancur was stretchered off in the second half after a collision from a corner kick and will miss the upcoming match due to concussion protocol. With Bentancur ruled out though, Postecoglou does face an absolute crucial decision. Does he start Yves Bissouma after his suspension, or does he place some faith in Archie Gray? And although I think many fans will be leaning more on the side of giving Archie Gray the opportunity, I do believe that Postecoglou will prioritise experience, especially with a tough running game. So I do think we will see Yves Bissouma restored to the lineup. And I know many fans want to see him punished. However, I do think when I look at that one-game suspension, the club didn't have to do it, and they could have given him longer if they wanted. I think they felt like they could have got by without him against Leicester, and that's why they suspended him for that game. Also, to maybe they were well aware of maybe his party antics and want to give him a kick up the hole to get him really flowing for the likes of Newcastle, Arsenal and Man United. When you look back at last season, is it any coincidence that Tottenham had their best run of games when this guy was on absolute fire? There was a period where we were saying we had a better signing than what Arsenal did in Declan Rice, and I do feel like that maybe that suspension is a bit of psychology to try and get Bissouma back into that form and help kickstart this campaign for us. Also, he's got a lot of work to do and a lot of making up to do in terms of the fans, but also for Ange Postecoglou. Unfortunately, because of the pressure surrounding this game and the real big need for 3 points, I do think Postecoglou will have to put his faith in Bissouma, and hopefully he can repay it. Moving into the number 8 role, and Papamata Sarr, I do think will retain his place, despite many people maybe suggesting Kulusevski or Bergvall coming in here. Papamata Sarr putting a really good performance out of possession against Everton, tirelessly working very hard for the team before really fading out in the course of the second half. And for me, every team needs someone like a Papa Matasar, someone who's willing to sacrifice himself for the team. It's absolutely an invaluable attribute to have. However, I do feel like that maybe Papa Matasar is maybe hitting a bit of a comfort zone from what I've seen pre-season and against Leicester. One area where I really think he now needs to improve his game, and I do think he has it in his locker, which is in possession. I think sometimes when we're going forward, sometimes he can be a bit underwhelming in possession. And like I said, he does have it in him. At the start of last season in that run, he got himself in the box and got himself a couple of goals. We've seen him switch play. We've seen him be able to take players on and thread passes through. And I do think that's one area that Papa Matasar really needs to improve and bring a lot more consistency to his game if he wants to nail down this position long term. And moving on to the number 10 role, and it was a much better performance this time around from James Maddison. He looked fired up from the start against Leicester, delivering a string of dangerous balls while also putting in that cross for Pedro Porro's goal. However, this performance was more to the Maddison that we do know. However, one area I still have a bit of a problem with James Maddison is this guy is vice captain and also the leader of that midfield. He is one of the oldest heads in that midfield, and he's been appointed a leader for a reason. When games get tough, like it did against Leicester, he absolutely wilted under pressure. And I know people can sit here and argue, Dave, they're turning over the ball and stuff like that. That's not James Maddison's side of the game. That's not what he thrives on. I get it. However, there's other ways he can help us. Instead of wilting, get on the ball, start dictating the play, start slowing down the tempo a little bit, and almost turn the tide of the game back in our favour. Turn the tempo of the game back in our favour and step up that way. And I really do think that's needed, especially in that midfield, considering some of the young guys that we put in around him. He has to be that guy, and I feel like he could take on a lot more responsibility in that regard when things get tough. And I feel like he's letting us down and also Postecoglou down in them moments. And this is one area of the game where I think Maddison really needs to improve if he really wants to become that world-class player. Every world-class midfielder has that ability to be able to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and dictate the tempo. And that's one area, like I said, I feel like Maddison really needs to improve on, and hopefully he can do that. Moving on into the forward line, and we will start out on the left-hand side, and of course, Captain Son will be leading the forward line. For me, I thought Son was very bright in the first half, constantly getting at his fullback, driving him backwards and creating a lot of havoc. And I know the end product wasn't there, but he was our only consistent forward player in that regard, especially in the first half. And what I do not like is Son has picked up a lot of slack since that game, but no one has asked questions of Dominic Solanke not finishing the moves or even really brought too much attention to Brendan Johnson not really providing anything down that right-hand side whatsoever. But yet when it comes to Sonny, he's over the hill. He's lost a yard of pace. Should we look to cash in on him? He's our best player and our only world-class forward player in the team. Our problem right now, and has been since Harry Kane's departure, is being clinical in front of goal. And yet we're maybe even entertaining discussions about selling our most clinical player in front of goal. I do not understand. And I get he did wilt in the second half. And again, like Romero, like James Maddison, I do have a criticism of Son. Son's 32 years of age. And for the high level that he's maintained over the course of his career and for how long he's been up there, when you look at the trophy cabinet and the medals, they don't really reflect how long Son has been at the top of his game. And yes, you can attribute some of that towards the club. They do have to shoulder some of the blame. But so does Son. Son has also been a massive part of them dressing rooms in years gone by. And one thing I notice about Son, he's very friendly, which is a great attribute to have. He's very likeable. But there's more to being a leader than being likeable. You also have to have the ability to be able to step up, sometimes get in players' ear, tell them the uncomfortable truths to try and drag more of them, or put your arm around them and try and drag more out of them. I do not see that from Sonny on the pitch in the heat of the battle. He may do it behind the scenes, but it's no good doing it on a Monday morning or on a Tuesday morning when you're reviewing tape and putting players out there. Do it on the pitch where you can actually impact games, and that's one area of Son's leadership that I think he really needs to grasp. Now, like I said, Son's 32. He doesn't have much to show for his career at Tottenham Hotspur, but this guy still has time and still has the destiny in his own hands. And for me, I would like to see him step up now, really grab the club by the scruff of the neck, especially that young squad that we have, and start demanding more, start dragging them to his level, start berating them when they fall below an unacceptable line for him. And that's what he needs to do. And if he can do that, he could very well steer this Tottenham team and become an even more bigger legend, and even more of a legend than Harry Kane, if he can take us to a trophy. But that's one area he needs to step up if that's to happen. And like I said, the destiny is in his own hands, so hopefully he can do that. Moving on out to right wing, and for some reason Postecoglou seems to persist with Brennan Johnson. Now, Brennan Johnson worked very hard out of possession the other night. However, I've been consistent on this. I will refuse to praise a player for working hard out of possession. That is an absolute bare minimum requirement from any professional footballer or any professional athlete for that matter. Where I've always had my problems with Brennan Johnson is in terms of output. And again, he really let us down the other night. Very to little no output whatsoever. When Romero has the option to pass the ball out to him and he doesn't take it, and not many players do get the ball out to Brennan Johnson, there's a reason why, because they don't even believe in the quality or that he's going to be able to create anything. Brennan Johnson, for me, would actually be a very decent impact player off the bench for Tottenham Hotspur. He's more of a player that when the game is opened up, players are tired, there's a lot more space for him to operate in. He will be devastating for Tottenham Hotspur and will bring that relentlessness that we need off the bench. And like he done last season, add a couple of goals, add a couple of assists. But when we play the football we do and we automatically push teams back, we make them compact because of the pressure we put on them. Brennan Johnson does not have the technical ability to be able to get on the ball and unlock the door, or even the crossing ability of someone like Pedro Porro, so that he doesn't have to bring that to his game. And simply, until Ange Postecoglou realises this, Brennan Johnson is going to keep costing this football club and also keep putting more scrutiny on Ange Postecoglou. However, heading into this game, I do think he is going to make a change. And I know many people will be calling for Kulusevski, and I'd absolutely love Kulusevski to come in here on the right wing. However, Odobert has trained on the right wing for the last couple of days in training, and I think that's with a view of him starting here against Everton. One thing I do like about Odobert is I think he has a lot of attributes that Brennan Johnson doesn't, that might actually propel him into this team very, very quickly. He's exciting, he'll get on the ball, he'll beat players, he'll draw players in and create space for others, and he'll look to take shots, from different angles and stuff like that. He won't have to walk the ball into the back of the net, which is a huge plus. We need someone like that who can sort of think outside of the initial instructions, a bit like Sonny does on the opposite side. However, where I do think we'll become a little bit frustrated is the consistency of the output on the end of all the good stuff that he does do. That still needs to come up a level, and I think that's where we might have to show the kid a little bit of time and a little bit of faith, because at the end of the day, it's not his fault. It's the board's fault for not addressing this side properly. So Odobert, I can't wait. Hopefully he does make his debut in front of the home crowd. Let's get behind him and let's see what he can do. And hopefully he can really help us unlock this Everton defence. And then moving into the forward line, of course, Dominic Solanke. We all got the horrible news that he is out with injury. And I really do feel for the guy, because when you start at a new club, he had a really good opportunities the other day to open the account. He didn't do that. Now he's injured and he's going to be out for another couple of weeks. It's sort of going to delay the start that he can make at Tottenham Hotspur. And further down the line, people will start questioning the impact that he's made, and it'll almost become like the noise around Richarlison. So I feel sorry for the guy, and them chances that he missed the other night will be absolutely playing on his mind until he gets back on the football pitch. And I really feel sorry for him. This is a guy that's been fit for every single club, nearly every single game where he's been at. He comes to Tottenham Hotspur, plays one game, and he's out for a couple of matches, which is absolutely sad to see. But we wish Big Dom an absolute full recovery. So the big question is, who then comes in up front? Well, me and Jack were having a debate about this. Jack thinks Richarlison, natural option. Also, Postecoglou said he's ready to go. So I'm going to go with Jack on this one, that Richarlison will probably come in and lead the line, because I think Postecoglou will play him against Everton, knowing that he will be motivated. He scored in both games against them last season, and I think he's going to give Richarlison the start here. However, I question Richarlison's sharpness. He came off the bench the other day. He had a header from 4 to 6 yards out and didn't even hit the target. If he's more sharper, he probably gets that on target and asks the question. Also, how fit is he? Postecoglou has already alluded to that he needs time to get minutes into his legs over previous games and stuff like that. So big questions around that. I would go with Kulusevski, because I think his best games has been as a striker for Tottenham Hotspur. When you think back to the Luton game last year when we went down to 10 men, he led that line like an absolute seasoned professional, like he's played up front all his career. Last game of last season against Sheffield United, he banged in 2 goals and looked absolutely brilliant. Pre-season, he's led the line up front, banged in goals, but most importantly for me, had that link up with Sonny, was really effective. So I think it's a big call, this one for Ange Postecoglou. Does he go with Richarlison, hoping to get the best out of him, and the fact that he scores against his old club, or does he go with Kulusevski and look to get more out of Son? Let's wait and see. But guys, that's my predicted lineup that I think Ange is going to pick. Please make sure you give me yours in the comments and reasons why. Let me know who's going to come in at CDM. Is Ange Postecoglou going to finally drop Brennan Johnson and bring in Odobert or Kulusevski? And who should start up front, Richarlison or Kulusevski? Might even see Will Lancashire be brought to the bench tomorrow after his screamer for the under-21s midweek. That will be very interesting to see. So guys, please smash that like button on the way out. Smash the subscribe button if you are new. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I will see you back here tomorrow at noon for the pre-match build-up. Ready and raring to go. I'm excited. Match day is upon us. Come on, you Spurs. In the mighty Ange we trust. We never stop.